Hello, everyone. This is a brief overview of the article I just published on my blog, niledatahub.com, about the future of industrial knowledge automation. This article, I walk you through a very simple example that illustrates the basics of multimodal assistance. So, multimodal here refers to the input being in different formats, such as text, from documents, PDF, such as, let's say, inspection manuals or any operating procedures, maintenance. Could be video recordings, it could be sound recordings, image, or different types of texts, or even sensor data. So we're taking all of this and unifying it into one format, which is text, and then we're storing this in databases for future retrieval. And the ability to turn this into embedding or a vector, regardless of the source, and the ability to process um, all the information is the most scalable way of basically learning or gaining insights from enterprise data. So this is an overview of the multimodal YouTube assistant architecture, where we see images input, or video input, or audio input, or document input at the very top. These represents the different data sources that we oftentimes have in our systems. So we use a different types of LLMs and technologies from Azure and AWS and Google, in addition to ChatGPT models such as GPT 4.0, 4.0 Mini Vision, Whisper, and so on, to transform the input into text. So, image to text, speech to text, in the case of video or audio, and more basically customized ways of extracting information from documents. And the most reliable way I know of is building templates based on Azure DI or Google DAI or AWS TextRack. This allows you to preserve the semantic relationship between the text and tables, and all these complicated things that simple tools are oftentimes unable to preserve. So all of this input is basically transformed into text, but here is the most critical part of the process, which is the post process. So we take the input and we feed it into a post processing step where we correct all kinds of errors that cropped into the input into the transformation process. So post process basically acts as a very intelligent assistant that is able to turn the raw text that has been produced by this step, the previous step, into a meaningful text, a text that is kind of logically connected and flows in a smooth way, and adds punctuation, make sure the grammar is correct, and all that stuff. So we end up with something really clean. And as you can see, it's a unified text corpus for all the inputs, regardless of their format. We end up with the same type of a format, which is the embedding or the vectors. And we feed that into a vector database such as Face, Pinecone, or ChromaDB. And this allows us to retrieve that information whenever we need it. We can do similarity search, for example, to find connection between current information, current videos, current issues, current, let's say, accidents or mishaps that happen in our equipment with previous incidents. So this is a very basic demo of a simple app that I built that demonstrates this multimodal abilities. So the user has to input a link, a URL for a YouTube video, and then we end up downloading into an MP3 file and then compressing the file, and then chunking that also. And this optimization is also a very important part of the process. And eventually, we end up with a raw text that is fed into the post processing step, and we end up with what I call the improved text. And we are also giving the user the ability to download the transcript as a text, document, TXT, and so on. This is usually important for industrial application where we have to always um, keep records for the purpose of compliance and answering to the regulators and so on. And you can see also the ability to turn the text into a speech. So you can actually listen to the speech in a different voice, a voice of your selection. And eventually we come to the most important part, which is the insights gained from this multimodal type of information. So you can ask the assistant any question basically. Here I'm asking a very simple question: summarize the lecture, which is not really doing a whole lot of things. It's just a grounding the response in the input text. So it's very unlikely to have hallucination in the response because it's based on the information that we're feeding it for the most part. Um, but in reality, we ask a lot more difficult questions, such as, have you seen these incidents happening in the past? So in that case, we retrieve the information, we do similarity search and other more complicated things that allow us to extract historical information and compare it to the current information. So this is simply how we gain a holistic understanding of what is happening in our factories, in our fields, and so on, in a scalable way. Thank you.